All these bike farms all over the roads and all over the town. I've never seen anybody ride a bike on the number one, number two, they're probably gonna be dead if they ride it, but what are the, what are the?
There's, the bike FAQs are now on the website, so there's a whole section on the
I
website,
haven't checked, yeah.
that explains exactly what a shower is, what they need, why they are.
Okay, don't, I won't be surprised.
Somebody's in the newsletter too. Somebody's in the newsletter.
Well, it's not, I mean, it's actually pretty detailed.
Oh, it is. Okay, this will be interesting, I gotta wait till I read this thing.
Send it a while.
Everywhere I go there, I'm thinking,
Yeah.
nobody,
Yeah.
like, what the heck are these things? I said, somebody got money that we, somebody's money to do this.
Oh,
That's
really?
a PennDOT spec.
Yeah, they
That's what I'm
just sold
saying.
their house.
I mean, the state spend money because
Well, they
the
live,
townships and boroughs aren't gonna
they
spend.
were over there behind the,
Unless it goes through that,
what's it called?
from the state through the borough to the street.
They were there far, patient first, patient first, I was right there in that development.
I gotta read, I gotta
I need
read.
to, so that's like, oh, you just bought their house, okay, well, Lloyd passed away.
Yeah,
Station to like come up here.
that's a fixed station.
That's a fix it station. Who funded that?
Mammoth gave, Mammoth gave us that. They fundraised with the.
I guess that's good.
I think I bought like 5 or 6 of
Every
them.
day I wake
That
up, my
was
feet hit the floor.
So that
I
same
get my
exact
exercise right
model
away, I
is
run to the
Evo.
bathroom.
And that's why,
So it's like, you know,
Using millions with the.
it's a good day.
like, there's, no, that's gonna be a, effectively, it looks like a bike rack.
Well, you do, you have to press on the app. I don't even run as fast, use it as fast as I used to.
Good morning. Hey, how's Spain?
At 6:30, what's the problem? He said, you know.
There you go.
I like your shirt.
Well, that's a good way of looking at it too, you're right.
And Jody.
John, how you doing?
How are your feet
Good to see you, John.
Good.
Where you been, bud? Maine.
Spain.
Maine.
Isn't that where the rainfall thing?
Well, where you want? Whole thing?
I've been to,
A lot of it.
up my street.
You're calculating how many miles you want.
Yeah, it's a lot. Wood.
Yeah.
All right.
Everybody we need, for the most part.
Yeah.
All right, 8 o'clock, it's called meeting order. Just do a roll call.
Keith Durr,
Here.
Tom Hall,
Here.
John Gallen,
Here.
Steve Brunner,
Here.
and Greg Gordner.
Here.
Good. Any public comment?
No.
Okay, hearing none, moving on. Phyllis, go ahead.
All right, end of July, cash and investments totaled $12,596,000. It's a decrease of $149,000 since the end of June. What we'll see going forward will be decreases like that because revenues have been mostly collected for the year, and now we'll be entering a time where we'll be paying for the capital expenditures. So we should see a periodic decrease going forward. At the end of July, there was no pending reimbursements, we're fully reimbursed. So the $12,596,000 is our total cash. Interest rates remain unchanged. The ICS account still is the best deal in town at 0.1%. The 6-month CD, certificate deposit, is actually maturing today. So with its maturity, there is an automatic roll feature available, and that will roll at 0.2%. So that money will remain in the certificate deposit rather than converting it to the ICS account. Those papers will be available probably later today or tomorrow. So I'll leave them maybe with you so that they can get signed next week when council's available again. Okay, and we'll get those back to the bank. I'll be away next week, so I'll leave those with Michelle. Any questions on cash?
You need more liquidity for that 2 million, since we're gonna be hitting the slide for the
Well,
rest
it's
of
an
the year.
automatic roll, so it's gonna take the
I
existing
mean,
balance.
is it, I guess we
I can't add to it.
can't put that to 12 months or anything, to get a better rate, or to double the rate.
No, there is actually an exception rate, that's not
Okay,
the
all right.
the rate that's generally
Just a thought,
available.
Yeah, okay, I'm sure you thought of
All right, for the month of July, expenses did exceed revenues by $344,000. So that on a year-to-date basis, the revenues in excess of expenses dropped to $3,795,000. When added to the beginning of the year fund balance, the fund balance at the end of July totaled $13,295,000. Of that amount, $1,384,000 is reserved, and we'll review the details in just a moment, leaving an unreserved fund balance of $11,911,000. As I mentioned, there are no pending reimbursements currently, and there are no open permit fees. Already included in fund balance is approximately $700,000 of receivables. We have the utility billing as well as miscellaneous general receivables in that amount. If we look at the detail of what is reserved, there have been no changes to the Borough Hall Reserve nor the capital improvements from 2020. We are still awaiting that final payment app. The collections for the bike route remain, as does the money received from the Wolves for the cameras. There have been no expenditures in that category yet. During the month of July, an additional month of the $80,000 for MS4 commitment has been added, bringing that reserve total to $286,000. Work was completed on both projects for the stairs from Parkside Drive North down to the pool, as well as the bollards at the Berkshire Heights Playground. That work is complete, both projects under budget, leaving $11,700 unused and returned to the unbudgeted items reserve. Also in the month of July, payment was made on the Public Works plan. We had reserved $163,000. That project is approximately 60% complete, and we've been billed from McCarthy for that amount, in the amount of $97,000, leaving $65,000 remaining. So total reserves at the end of July are $1,383,000. Any question on reserves? When we look at the actual results for the month of July, revenues for the month of July totaled $1,960,000, bringing year-to-date total to $15,222,000. It's approximately 75% of the revenues anticipated for the year. That amount, however, does include the funds that were received for the American Rescue Plan in the amount of $556,000. Revenues without considering the rescue plan would total about 72%. When we looked at expenses for the month of July, expenses totaled $2,305,000, bringing year-to-date expenses to $11,426,000, or just 53% of what had been budgeted. So you can see through 7 months, revenues exceed our planned expenditures. That trend will change over the next few months as we pay for the planned capital expenditures. We look at the net results for the month of July. Expenses did exceed revenues by $344,000, bringing the year-to-date total to $3,795,000. July transactions of note include the reimbursement from DCED totaling $570,000, and real estate taxes that were processed for the month of June were received by the borough in July, and those receipts totaled $463,000. Payments were made to borrowers for the 4th Street construction. On application number 8, $253,000 was paid. Payment was made to Barrasso for the first and final application for the water project. Those $138,000. July was unusual in that there were 3 payrolls in that month. That occurs in July and again in December, and we're running payroll, of course, with a full summer staff, so payroll runs about 250,000 per pay period. So with 3 payrolls, the payroll expense was 470,000. Also in the month of July, we're getting towards the end of the recreation season. The playground actually closes tomorrow. Budget was 36,000, and total revenues collected, or total fees collected for playground registration total 38,000, so that exceeded budget. The pool remains open for another 2-week period on a full-time basis, and then weekends thereafter through Labor Day. We had budgeted 112,000, and through the end of July, 105,000, or about 94% was collected. The facility rental, the Hills Playground is actually up more than anticipated, but both Happy Hollow and Stonehouse particularly are down. So our facility rentals are only running about 60% of what they were pre-COVID. Any questions on July summary? So you look at real estate taxes, July began the penalty period. And so now if a taxpayer has not paid their taxes, they are more likely to wait until the end of the calendar year. So tax collections over the next several months will be minimal. The tax collector reported collections of 22,000, bringing total collections for the year to 4,393,000 of the 4,590,000 that was possible when bills were printed. So that brings us to about 96% collection, which gets us pretty much on par with 2019. So with 196,000 remaining, that's just 4%, 182 bills. Question?
Just on the 96%, so 4% delinquent. Obviously, we can wait after that.
Not
so-
delinquent, they
Well,
have to
okay,
the end of
but-
the calendar year to pay, but it
What
is
is
in the
our-
penalty period,
Okay, so what is our usual collection rate?
about 98%.
Okay, the other 2%, I guess, is that stuff that's never recovered, or
No, it's-
sheriff sales, or how do we?
At the end of the calendar year, a reporting is done and the uncollected bills are turned over to the county. And then there is a collection cycle before it gets to the sheriff's sale point.
And I guess most times we collect that, and then we have a lot of sheriff sales typically.
Not a lot, no. They do occur, but no, it's not a lot.
So we're bound to get all the money eventually, it's just some of the lags and.
And our collection rate does exceed most of the surrounding
Right,
municipalities.
okay.
So for the month of July, as I mentioned, collections from June that were processed right at the end of the flat period totaled 463,000. The borough received them in the first week of July. That added to the 22,000 that the tax collector received during the month of July. 4,900 was received in the first week of August, so that the taxes received by the borough totaled 480,000. Make sense? So added to the 480,000 would be delinquent taxes that were received from the county in the amount of 25,000. Add to that the interim taxes, which are anything on change bills that occur, plus a little bit of penalty that had been collected. The total receipts by the borough during the month of July was 507,000, bringing the year-to-date collections to 4,412,000 of the 4,431 that had been budgeted. So our collection compared to budget is 99% of what we had budgeted. So very little will be anticipated for the remainder of the year. I did get an update from the county as far as the assessed value. Now this report was through mid-year, June 30th. When the bills were prepared in January, the assessed value in the borough totaled $1,020,136,000. At the end of June, that total was a slight increase at $1,021,000,000. And that would be the result of improvements to properties and and small reassessments. At the end of 2020, you may recall the borough had been notified of a number of civil actions that had been started by commercial entities against the assessment board, and those items are still pending. Those changes are not reflected in these totals. So I will be following up with the county to see if they heard anything. Chris, have you heard anything on any of those cases?
No, I haven't seen any resolutions
We'll keep you posted. That number will be important as we start the budget process to determine what the initial tax base is. When we look at local taxes for the month of July, July's not a period where there are large distributions. There's no quarterly cycles that are occurring. So tax collections, other than real estate taxes, totaled $164,000, bringing the year-to-date total to $3,900,000. So we do have a positive variance versus the prior year, primarily because of timing, because we're extended due dates during 2020, but more on par with what we were experiencing in 2019. If we look at the individual taxes, mercantile tax for the month of July, collections totaled $26,000. Bringing the year-to-date total to $1,093,000. We will see in the Wyomissing portion of the borough, we have already exceeded the $225,000 that had been budgeted, but what we're seeing is a lag in the Wilson portion of the borough. Through the end of July, $818,000 of the $900,000 that was budgeted had been collected. If we look at the same period of time, August through December, back in 2019, approximately $50,000 had been collected during that time. So even if collections the remainder of the year matched what had occurred in 2019, we're likely to fall short of the $900,000 that was budgeted for the Wilson portion. But because the Wyomissing portion is $50,000 over what had been budgeted, we will most likely hit our collected mercantile budget by the end of the year. The other tax of concern would be the local services tax that remains behind where we were both 2019 and 20. The collections for the month of July totaled just 1,600, bringing the year-to-date total to 276,000. The collections that we see in I'm talking on the screen and not on my notes. The 117,000 that was collected in March would have been from the fourth quarter of 2020. So you can see a slight improvement over what was experienced during the latter part of 2020 when you were seeing a reduction in the workforce. The first quarter of 2021 was collected during May and June and totaled 132,000. So we see improvement over what was experienced in 2020, obviously, but not quite back to the pre-pandemic levels. The real indicators of the number of people in the workforce will be seen when the borough receives the second quarter distribution, and that's anticipated in September. And then the third quarter distribution will come right in December. So those will be better indicators of the number of people in the workforce. So we will continue to watch that number.
Probably not gonna be good.
Next is a capital update on the 4th Street project. During the month of July, change order number 4 was approved, bringing the project to $1,826,000, although $63,000 over budget, fully reimbursable. Also in the month of July, council approved and payment was made on application number 8 in the amount of $253,000. That amount was reimbursed during the month of July, along with application number 6 and application number 7. So the total reimbursement from DCED during the month of July was $570,000. Also in July, application number 9 was approved by the Infrastructure Committee in the amount of $517,000. That application brought the project to 94% complete, and the retainage dropped to 5%. Application number 10 is still pending. That will be mostly retainage and bringing the project to close to completion. Anything to add on 4th Street?
Nope.
We still have not received the final payment app from the 2020 sewer project. There are a few items to complete. Jim anticipates that completion around September. The work on 2021 project has started, actually started on Monday, and it's possible that the Infrastructure Committee may see a payment app at its August meeting. The water project was approved and paid by council in the month of July in the amount of $138,000. The street project, I guess the work has begun on Hill Avenue, and the sidewalk project has not yet started, so payment applications in August are unlikely for those projects. Okay, we look at total capital expenditures for the month of July. For the police vehicle, lettering, lights and siren were put on the new vehicle totaling $12,000. The small amounts you see there for the multimodal project is just the permitting engineering fees that have been accumulating. I already reported the payment for the 4th Street extension, the amount of $253,000. Continued engineering for the 4th Street project that is no longer passed along to Equus, total of $8,000. The number that you see for the pedestrian bridge has 2 components to it. The previous months, what you're seeing is the payments on the Stonehouse master plan. We thought that was going to be completed during the prior budget year, but fell into the current year. The project is 96% complete, with only another $900 remaining on the contract. In addition to the expenditure for the July, for the Stonehouse master plan, was the repairs for the Stonehouse Bridge to construction master, and that totaled $23,000. $23,700 was paid to construction master for the repair to this Stonehouse Bridge. Although we budgeted $250,000 for the current year, the actual replacement of the bridge is likely to fall into 2022 and will require to be rebudgeted. Lastly, the payment on the water project, as already reported to Barrasso, was $138,000. Capital expenditures during the month of July totaled $438,000, bringing year-to-date total to $1,616,000, or just 36% of the budgeted $4.4 million. So on the remaining months of the year is where you'll see the capital expenditures and where you'll see the revenue in excess of expenses will be eaten away as we make those capital expenditures. Any questions on the July results? Okay, so with 7 months complete, I'll be preparing the budget worksheets to get out to the department heads to begin the process for 2022. As soon as the August results are available, they get their worksheets so they can start compiling their numbers and return them to us in anticipation of the finance committee meeting and starting its budget discussions.
Are we gonna talk about the emergency recovery plan now, or are we gonna do that at a different meeting? Whatever we found out.
Well, at this time, it's sitting in reserves
No, I
until
know,
the borough
but
takes
about
action.
whether we got any more clarifications as to what.
We'll have to meet.
I get a new updated publication pretty much every week. There's a bunch of notes in there that change. So I mean, I would continue to say the course of just keeping it reserved until there's a final version.
We probably need to make some decisions before we do budgets. I think that's gonna impact a lot of things.
Agree, there's a lot of roads that can be fixed if we can use those dollars, we could.
Any early indications that we can use it on infrastructure, digital infrastructure?
Infrastructure is in roads, water, sewer.
Right.
Yes, you can, I've read determinations, the two most recent publications also indicate you can use it on parks projects.
Two projects.
Parks.
I think our roads are probably,
Yeah, maybe.
that, I mean, that's actually, that seems to be a priority, that's where we put a lot of stuff on hold last year. So I mean, I think I would be in favor that if we use as much as possible to offset some of the road construction that we put off.
Absolutely.
We have another 50% coming for the year, that's, get to the parks at that point. But I do agree, I think we need to start looking at these roads, they're starting to get bumpy. Bumpy, whatever. Okay, moving on. Any other questions on the July 2021 results? Okay, leaf picker discussion.
The leaf picker was a budgeted item that went into capital last year, which then came out that we were unsure whether we were gonna get any DEP grants or recycling grants. The state did resume that grant process and basically are able to use leaf picker less than what the state has granted. So the approximate DEP grants around 83 for the leaf picker, cost is 81, that we're expecting the budget committee bring the rest of the council to purchase the new leaf picker. This is also been through the infrastructure, they also recommend.
And that's 100% grant, that's not a match. Right.
There is a small match,
Oh, there is a match.
yes, of about 1%.
Oh.
So,
It's a small one.
it's about as small as it gets.
Actually, it's $662.
.75.
No problem there.
So we need a motion to approve recommending to council the purchase of leaf picker. Anybody want to make that motion?
Well, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. New leaf picker, just in time.
It's unlikely to be delivered.
Oh, really? That's true. Nothing, I can't get a vacuum cleaner.
2023 maybe.
Okay, sidewalk inspection process.
I had asked Chris's office to draft the resolution that's on the screen before you. There was some clarification as to when sidewalk inspections are done by either Jim Babb, Kraft Codes, or McCarthy Engineering. It's very rare outside of land development approval, McCarthy is doing a sidewalk inspection. There's nothing in the fee schedule for when they do one or need to do a re-inspection. So I had requested Chris to draft the resolution which sets the fee at $50 for an inspection, $50 for a re-inspection, anytime McCarthy needs to do a sidewalk inspection.
And we were doing nothing before?
We were doing them, but because things have changed as to which department does what type of inspection, it wasn't spelled out the way that it needs to be spelled out, and I didn't think it was fair to pass on McCarthy's hourly rate to a homeowner.
Agreed. Do we have any questions?
No.
We need to make a motion to move this to council.
So moved.
Everyone second it?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Moving on. Green light go?
Are you taking this one or not? Okay. I believe you're all aware that Green Light Go, we had applied in early 2019 and again in 2020. The funding we applied for in 2019, we asked for, I think it was close to $500,000 or $600,000. We were only awarded $173,000. So we reapplied at the beginning of 2020 for the balance. We had an announcement, I believe about a month ago, that both the 2019 and 2020 applications were funded. 2019, $173,994, 2020, $420,384. The scope of the project includes the replacement of 526 traffic signal indications with LED lenses, replacement of 21 traffic signal controllers, replacement of 26 pedestrian man-hand signals with man-hand countdown LED signals, installation of 2 yellow LED arrow signal indications, and the replacement of a junction box at intersections throughout the borough, which include Paper Mill, Ridgewood, Crossing, Berkshire Square, Museum Road, Penn Ave, Hill, North Wyomissing Boulevard, Van Reed, Spring Street, 8th Avenue, Clayton, the fire station, Reading Boulevard and Avenue, ramps at 422 and 222, Crossing, Woodmill, Paper Mill, Ridgewood, Park Road, Penn, Woodland, and Berkshire Boulevard. So it's all of the remaining areas that needed to be upgraded from prior years. We had done Green Light Go grants that were left over. There was, to my understanding, nothing included in this year's budget for the match funds that both of those grants require. The 2019 Green Light Go grant of $173,000 requires a match of $43,498. The 2020 grant of $420,384 requires a match of $105,096.
So you need 118.9, basically.
No, close to 150 total.
Yeah, no, that's budget.
None of it's budgeted at the time we were budgeting, PennDOT had shown the project that was underway.
3, 4, 2. So, you need 20% of 174,000 and 20% of 420,000, correct?
No,
What about the
you,
50,000?
when you're computing the amount of the match, you have to go to the project cost, not to the grant.
Right, so 150,000.
Give or take, a little less than 150,000.
All right, so that's $150,000. We just discussed the fact that we repaired the pedestrian bridge and we had a budgeted number of $250,000, $225,000.
250.
We had 250 budgeted,
We're
and
only
what
gonna
we've
use-
incurred is the cost for the Stonehouse Master Plan,
Right.
as well as the repairs. There's a small additional expense, other than construction master, they purchased some big rocks, boulders to shore up, and those will be an August expense.
So, in the light of the fact that we're getting 80 cents on the dollar from somebody else, we have $209,000 remaining under that we know we're not gonna spend in the calendar year of 2021. Fair statement?
So would these expenditures be in 2021 or would they be 2022?
So that's a good question, and infrastructure is gonna have to discuss this further. For the 2019 grant, we have an executed agreement both with PennDOT and with TPD, who's our traffic engineer. For the 2020 grant, we do not have an executed agreement yet with PennDOT nor with TPD. TPD was supposed to get me their proposal by yesterday in time for this meeting. I don't have it, so I was going to ask you to authorize TPD to move forward with permitting, design, and bidding for the 2019 contract, which you could do. But I don't feel it's appropriate to ask you to do that for 2020 since we don't actually have a contract.
So more than likely, that'll be 2022,
That's my
which
guess.
means we can budget for it as opposed to.
There may be some cost, I mean, depending if your infrastructure approves moving forward with design, permitting, and bidding for the 2019 round, especially if this committee would do it, that it's approved at next week's council meeting, there's probably a decent chance they could start by the end of the year that you may see some cost incurred this year, but I would think the bulk of the project would be next year.
The bulk of the 2019 award.
Yes, and 2020 I think would fall, TPD has not even started anything with that.
So what would our potential match be for 2021?
43,498.
So that makes.
But that's still gonna be taken out, that's for money that was up, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we still have $209,000
Right.
to go on that one particular item that we know we're not gonna do this year. All right, so we need to make a motion to approve the potential payment of 20% match on $173,994.48.
Don't we recommend that to infrastructure? Is that what we need to do?
I think you only need to approve the match, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, infrastructure needs to approve TPD moving forward with.
I'll make that.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm sorry,
We need to say,
did you do 2019 and 2020 together?
2019.
Then 2020, I would think you'd wanna do too.
Okay. Need a
Even
motion?
though the expenditure would be for next year.
Yeah, cause I mean, that way Phyllis can at least include it in the draft budget, if you've already discussed and approved it.
So would we be able to show the carryover of that remaining
43.
pedestrian bridge money to pay for that?
The committee could move to
I
reserve
mean, if
that
that's what
balance,
we're, use new money for that,
because the worksheet's not right now.
sure. Just a-
Yeah, I guess we'd have to look at all those projects and see what's left over and create a reserve for, if it's for a specific purpose.
Okay, so we need a,
So really,
or,
motion is
just lost my
just
mind, right, need a motion to, approve 20% match on the 2020 traffic signal improvement application.
So
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, motion's moved. Okay. All right, so we're done with the Green Lake Go funding, about the county provided consolidated dispatch service.
just a little history, the Berks County Commissioners charge each municipality for dispatch costs going to fire EMS responses in their jurisdiction, in which case we're paying for Western Berks' responses in their area as far as communication fees. They total approximately in 2021, 125, 377, in 2022, they're gonna remain the same. To make it simple, the county used to basically pick an arbitrary number to increase their fees. And that can range anywhere from 7% to 18% to 8%. Their last increase was in 2020 at 7%. Commissioners wanted to simplify that and basically tie that into the consumer price index. And in order to take advantage of the increases, it's right for minimum. They want to use the consumer price index or consumer CPIU for the Northeast region, which reference to the company agreement, which is my understanding is around anywhere between 3% and
That's been practiced.
that establishes basically what the fees can be generated for. It doesn't give the arbitrary number, so my recommendation would be for council to move forward with the resolution and authorize signature for the intermunicipal agreement for the county to provide dispatch service.
So what we need is a resolution to move this to council.
Yes, sir.
A motion to approve
Maybe
the
also,
authorization.
he said.
Good, I'm glad someone said that. All those in favor?
Got that one?
Any opposed? Hearing none, moving forward. Utility payment status.
The short version,
Sure, I'd like that.
July 12th, outstanding borough utilities were $77,256.12, with around shut-off procedures and great work by Kim in getting collections done. On August 5th, we were down to $36,078.60. The borough cycle, the first people that are living in a borough who are charged with borough water, sewer, and trash, dropped from $33,155 owed to $2,722 owed. Pennsylvania American, which we basically have been through a shut-off process, Pennsylvania American, we're charging the folks in Wyomissing for sewer and trash. That dropped from $20,096 down to $15,186. We did see an increase in our commercial from $14,003 to $18,169. And we were working to, get this county knows folks pretty well. And, we do think that that will be better. So we are making progress, and I have to applaud Kim for her efforts in getting these questions done. We have accomplished, and still have about 7 properties that are in shut-off status, which we have to see what states are going to have.
Nice.
Those are the properties.
That's like good that we're chasing the money. Sounds good.
Oh, we may have to buy Kim a new baseball bat. Looks like
Second.
you're wearing the old one out.
reached out to Link/Stratix to obtain a quote for 8 iPads and 8 prop-up protective cases for a total cost of $2,871.90. Having an internal administrative discussion, we thought it made sense to wait until 2022 to start,
Yeah.
just because of what's coming up with the elections. In talking to Stratix, they did say they could put the order through beginning of December. We'd have them by the end of December, and they wouldn't fill us until the first month of 2022.
Okay. So what we're trying to do is get everybody on council with iPads so that we don't have 3 million pieces of paper hanging around.
My forester would be happy. His admission when he first came on council.
Calling to say.
Yeah,
Are you still planning on mailing everything out to, emailing rather?
Yes.
That's why I'm not mailing, email.
If you wanna print those trees out, go ahead, that's right.
Along those
If you wanna print a
lines,
tree out, go ahead.
Well, no, but I mean, you said you have council and then, by coming to council meetings, I'll still need paper.
Yeah.
So, that's my point.
or your own tablet.
So,
Or you're on tablet.
well, treasurer wasn't on there, I'm not making that, I'm just saying, do I need to bring my own, or what should I do?
We'll figure that out for you.
Alright, that's fine. Just a comment.
Along those lines, Melissa's been working on drafting an iPad policy, just so there's very clearly written rules and an understanding of what council member and the mayor's responsibilities are while they have and are using those iPads. So Chris will want to review that with you at some point.
Yeah, one of the things that I think is relevant to that is, do you wanna use an email account for borough business separate from your personal emails? We've tried a couple of times over the years to establish that. I'm not sure it's always been implemented the way it was intended, and there's advantages to that with things like right to know requests, where you can basically avoid needing to have your personal email accounts researched for responsive documents if you have one email account that is dedicated exclusively to borough business. So this device acquisition, it could be something we would try to implement as part of the use of those new devices. I know it's hard because we all use multiple devices. And having multiple email accounts is, gives us one thing to look at. But as I said, there are advantages to having a dedicated email account just for borough business.
Well, my idea of the iPads would be strictly for the council use, so we can have all the minutes stored in one spot. You can have contracts stored in the computer, where I don't want to keep them in my personal computer, those kind of things. So I don't see that really
Is there
being,
any consideration given to like a portal?
I don't know.
We're gonna have to look into something because the storage space on the iPads
It's not-
is not extensive.
Well, it's not hardware dependent, it's just a cloud-based
Yeah.
portal
Yeah.
that anyone logs into with any device. That's how the other boards of the program.
That's the next,
You provide your own device, whether it's your laptop or iPad or phone, but you can lock whatever information you're entitled to as a member of that board or committee
Goes to the portal.
is in the portal for you. And if you're not on that committee, you don't see those documents.
I'm okay with that too, I just don't.
that's something we're gonna have to look into doing with
Might be more
Stratix.
difficult to administer.
Stratix anyway, because the storage space on the iPads is not extensive that you'd be able to save much of anything. So I mean, that's one of the questions when Melissa sent me the draft policy that we realized we're gonna have to talk to Stratix about. Some type of either cloud-based storage or something that you can save everything you need to save on that device or somewhere else and have access to it.
No, at this
Basically,
point,
you get an email that says, okay, all the documents for the next meeting are on the portal.
Right.
And then you go and you log in.
We should do that with school board, that's how it works.
okay, so we need a motion to go ahead and make the recommendation to purchase the 8 iPads for 2022, which we'll budget for in 2022 also.
moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Visual sound.
I had reached out to Stratix actually first and asked for, a meeting with them in this room to look at obtaining a quote to put in technology that we could do visual and in-person meetings, basically live stream, record, and then save and put on the website the way we were doing Zoom. Stratix came back and basically said that's not their area of expertise. In the meantime, I had contacted Visual Sound, which is the company that put all of the existing technology in here. So they came out about 2 weeks ago, met with Melissa and I. We went over a bunch of different options with them for microphones, cameras, recording equipment. I have yet to receive an actual quote from them, but they said ballpark price is probably around $30,000. So,
Okay,
at
well,
this
I
point,
think
it's
it's
just,
something we need to really look into. I think some of the public really liked the Zoom meetings and that they could see them and view them. And if we're not filming them, and in some ways, the only way that this information gets out is from Mr. Jadek's camera. I'd like everything to be out there, not just a portion of whatever gets sent out from a private camera, so there could be no confusion there. So I think that's something we need to continue to, at least my opinion is, we can take a vote with council, but I think that's something that we should continue to look into. And what's the ongoing cost on top of it?
haven't gotten that far yet.
I know, I get it, I understand. Add that to your list, Phil, for the budgeting purposes of 2020. Okay, maybe have any comment on that? All right, any new business? New business going once, twice? Okay,
Make a motion.
hearing no other, make a motion to, well, meeting's closed.
So I'm gonna have to go to work, I'll leave you to check something.